We are here tonight. We have a very special guest, Josh Dziewa is with us. Josh was a Pennsylvania state champion in high school, two-time NCAA qualifier at the University of Iowa. After college, I know Josh spent some time as the director of operations for Penn Wrestling and spent the last few years on the Drexel Wrestling staff. Josh, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
I really appreciate you guys having me.
We're excited.
What's going on?
Man, we are living the dream. Other than COVID, everything's really good right now, I think.
Ain't that something? What are the regulations like in Iowa? Are you guys wrestling at all?
Yeah, so our clubs recently have started back up. Most of them, not everyone, but we do have clubs right here where we are in the Quad Cities. Twice a week they're going.
Nice.
They're taking extra precautions. There, a lot of hand sanitizer, a lot of extra cleaning of the mats and stuff like that.
I saw USA Wrestling announce the senior nationals will be in Iowa City, in Coralville, right?
So that cool? Yeah.
That's awesome. So I know that obviously it was a little lighter out here in Philadelphia. We the schools are all still closed. There's no wrestling really right now, but clubs are going. I know there's a couple youth tournaments happening in private gyms and stuff like that. And I know like the kids Tulsa Nationals, that's a full go this weekend. There's 3 days down in Tulsa. They're getting after it. And, wrestling camps all over. They're trying to make it work. So. Yep. I just wasn't sure. I know, we're a little stricter in Philadelphia. The population's a little higher, and our cases are a little higher. So, but making it work, trying to.
So this past weekend, I felt like it was Christmas almost. I got to go to South Dakota. Terry Pack has Legends of Gold out there, and he ran a 3-day. Actually, it was a 5-day tournament, but I went for the high school. It was a 3-day tournament. It was a dual tournament. They did folk style the first day, freestyle the next day, and Greco the next day. So I got to watch 3 full days of wrestling, live wrestling. It was fantastic. It was so.
Yeah, after 6 months of no wrestling, that had to be so good.
It was great.
Yeah, it's great. I've enjoyed the recent cards. The Fight TV card, that was fantastic, and Flo put on a great event the other weekend. So we're getting back into the swing of things. So we're headed there.
Absolutely.
We'll see.
Yeah. So how have you and your family been doing? What have you guys been? Have you been able to enjoy the summer so far? Or I know you've been busy.
Yeah, absolutely. We spend a lot of time at the beach every summer just with our family. That's really, my number one initiative when the summer hits, for the weekends at least. But, with, being out at Drexel for so much time, I had Zoom responsibilities, and that was it. So we go down the beach, and maybe in the morning I'd have some calls and stuff, but then, hit the Jersey Shore. And, the girls, I have a 9-month-old that's just officially crawling. So she's all over the sand and just a monster out there. She, just getting comfortable with the water after like 3 or 4 trips. And then I have a 2-year-old that is, she just wants to be in the water the whole time. So, we love going down there and spending 2 or 3 days with our family and stuff. We didn't see my mom all the way through probably May, from like March through May. We spent a lot of time quarantined with just us. But ultimately we've come to the decision that we're going to, see our parents, and, we've had a moderate quarantine ever since, we're still respectful in public spaces with masks and stuff, but we're making sure that we're getting our summer too.
So Josh, big news just came out where Iowa is being flooded with your new movement. Want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yep. So I just officially took my first head coaching position. Germantown Academy is a independent private school in the Philadelphia area. The town's actually Fort Washington. A lot of history in wrestling, and they presented me with an opportunity. Their coach got another position in North Carolina, and I had a couple of people close to the program that asked me if I'd be interested, and we were able to make things work. They gave me a full-time role in the athletic department. So my title is assistant to the athletic director. I have a couple of different responsibilities through like communications office, and I'll have a couple of sections of middle school PE. So it's a K through 12 school. So it's a beautiful campus. Academics are super high priority, but we have a really good wrestling team as well. We had they took 6th at national preps last year, and we returned 2 of those All-Americans. And what I'm really excited about actually is my 6th, 7th, and 8th graders at the school are hammers. So I'm actually walking into a loaded deck. I'm excited to get my hands on those guys early. And, through the years, I think it's going to grow and get better and better. Right now I'm looking at, roughly 20 kids on the team. I'm looking at maybe a forfeit or 2. I don't have a 6-pounder. I'm still searching for a 220. I'm in contact with the football coach and seeing if we can make things happen. I need to find a 6-pounder and, I'll have a lineup. But, I've already been in contact with the major tournaments, Ironman, Beast, and Escape the Rock. So we're confirmed for those. I'm not sure if I'm going to take advantage of all of the opportunities. I got to make sure I do what's best for the guys. But those are on the table, available if I want them, which is nice. And then, I've set up a couple dual meets. One thing, I have a big tournament in the beginning of the year. We bring in a bunch of teams. Last year they had Wyoming Seminary, Blair, Malvern brought guys to the tournament. So I'm looking to do something along those lines. And this is all, I'm hopeful that we get a wrestling season, So, and, it could potentially be modified as well. But we're preparing for a normal regular season, and we'll go from there. If we have to adjust, we'll adjust. It's, I'm willing to roll with the punches. That's okay. I've lived my life that way for a long time.
So geographically, where's that located compared? Because right now you're in Philly, right?
Yep. Yeah. So it is 40 minutes west of Philadelphia. So you just jump on 76, and that takes you out to the western side of the city. It's it's actually considered Montgomery County, which is, the counties are big. Philadelphia County's big. It's super close. Some of the teams in our conference are Philadelphia County. Some of the teams in our conference are Bucks County. So, it's when that's actually what's a little nice is being outside of Philadelphia County, we have a little less regulation than some of the teams that we'll be up against. So when it comes to like fall sports, we're able to actually have some practices. Football and soccer such are able to do skill drills, whereas some of the Philadelphia County schools are not allowed. Their campuses are closed, period. And that's, what I experienced with Drexel for the past 6 months. So yeah, no, it's good. It's all good.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, if you could, Josh, tell us a little bit about your start in wrestling. You grew up in Yardley, Pennsylvania. How did you get started?
Yeah, my dad. Actually, he was still competing moderately. He was, some of my earliest memories of him. He turned our one-car garage into a wrestling room. So he had high school kids coming in and was training with them. He himself was going over to Foxcatcher's, extremely close in our area. So, some of the best wrestlers in the world were there. So he'd go in there as a workout partner every once in a while. There were open rooms. He wrestled for a year or 2 at Ryder. And then, what I found interesting is he would wrestle while I was a little kid. He wrestled. We have a tournament called the Mawas. This like Eastern National Championship. A lot of people from out here go to that. I watched him wrestle there a couple of years, and it was since he was doing it. We were wrestling in the same tournaments actually on a couple of occasions. So and it's funny. I had these memories of like my dad. He took 4th in one of the Eastern Nationals. I'll never forget. I was in 1st or 2nd grade, and I was like, he must have slipped on a wet spot because nobody beats my dad. That's just he obviously something weird happened there because he doesn't lose. So that was like, and it just was an early start for me. And I actually took second at that tournament. So, it was an early indication that I knew what I was doing. I actually outplaced my dad at the first one, one of my earliest memory tournaments, especially the only one really that we competed in together. So it was just, yeah, I mean, having kids come into our room all the time. I was 2 years old, 3 years old, running around. They let me scrap for a little bit, and then they kicked me out. It was just, that's how I was raised. So, my first season in the club was when I was 4, turning 5 or whatever. But I literally tell people I've been wrestling since I came out of the womb. My dad was cradling me, and like those were real things. I didn't know anything else. I played every other sport with the understanding that it was my second sport. I was doing it as an extracurricular, as time off from wrestling, or ways to benefit wrestling. I told people all the time I was playing soccer so that I could get my conditioning up for wrestling. That was something I told soccer players all the time. These kids were playing, because that was their number one. And I was like, I'm really just, staying in shape for wrestling until it comes around in the fall or, in the winter. So that's exactly how it happened. And then, some of those high school kids had a lot of success. So I had good mentors coming in. And then, I found success early. So it was easy to be invested my time. And, we did double bracket tournament. We do two brackets on Saturday, 2 brackets on Sunday at a different place, and wrestled 20 matches. And I couldn't wait for that. It was never a dreading moment in my youth growing up. It was just what we did, and we had a blast doing it. We didn't win them all, it was, there was some bumps in the road for sure, but a blast. So that's, it was easy.
Yeah.
So Josh, I mean, you started at incredibly young age wrestling. Did you, and it sounds like it really came naturally to you, but I mean, at what point did you just accelerate, your ability in wrestling? You're like, okay, now we're looking at a different level. I'm not looking at smaller schools.
I think the Ken Cherto wrestling camps were a huge part of my development. He, instilled intensity, which was something that took me to another level, just getting a little fiery out there. And then, I would do 7-day stints. So we would do 3-a-days for 7 days, twice in the summer. We do one in June, one in August. And, so I came back every season just at another level. So those camps absolutely had a huge impact on me. They're run out of a hotel, which is super cool. I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Ken Cherto camps at all, but they put the mats on the floors, like in the meeting rooms and in the lobby, like not right in front of the front desk, but like, and then we stay in the hotel. So like you just walk right up to our room and then come back down. I mean, it's an amazing setup, and especially and then, you're doing 3-a-days, a really hard one in the afternoon, techniques in the morning and nights, optional runs. And, it is a full blown, and tons of kids. And, they have little camps going on with the long camps. There's a 2-week camp, and there's a 1-week camp, a 4-day camp, and everyone's just doing everything together. It's a great system. And that really helped my development. I probably started going there 5th or 6th grade. So it was right around the turn. And, we made things happen going forward. So going into 9th grade, I was anticipating a very successful high school career. So
that's really cool.
That was, Ken Cherto, he does a lot for those kids. He's good. I got a lot of good things to say about him there. Appreciate that help.
Who would you say you modeled your style of wrestling after?
I don't know. That's a good question. I would say that it was pretty unique to me. It was, we did a lot of wrestling. So I found what I was good at. And, I found a lot of, I was very patient as a kid, and would allow people to make their mistakes and take advantage of the holes, So I can't think of someone off the top of my head that really sticks out. I was really good at picking stuff from different people that I liked. Like for example, and sometimes it was my competitors. So I remember my junior year in high school, I wasn't allowed to wrestle in the PIAA. I was suspended for the season for transferring. They called it an athletic transfer, which it was. And but I paid my penalty, so it's okay. And I had to wrestle in college open tournaments, and it ultimately ended up being one of the best things for me. I was wrestling this kid from Oklahoma. Jack Spates brought his entire Oklahoma team out to the Wilkes Open in Pennsylvania, and I'm wrestling their 41-pounder. And he hits, so I try an elbow pass off, and he just kind of like shucks me. Like as I elbow pass, he just like lets it happen, and I literally turned backwards. So as I elbow pass, he lets it happen, and then he was behind me just like that. And it ended up being a move I used for the rest of my life. I used it plenty times as a Hawkeye. I used it in the state finals as a senior. I mean, it was like, and so stuff like that all the time. If I was at a clinic or something, I found something that worked, I would, it was pretty quick to come right into, my repertoire. As for my style, like a specific person, I'm sorry, I can't necessarily pinpoint that because, I found, different ways to do different things, top, bottom, and neutral, all positions where, I can't necessarily nail one person on it.
Yeah. Is there anybody that you looked up to, like as maybe a role model in the sport? I know you mentioned your dad.
So as a coach, I tell people this all the time. So Jay, me actually became familiar through my WrestleText program. And, on WrestleText, I've used this example multiple times. So on there, I have 4 platforms. I talk to the athletes themselves, the coaches, the parents, and then the fans. So sometimes I send one text to the entire group, but for the majority of it, I try to segment the text messages. So I'm talking to the athletes, I'm talking to the coaches, I'm talking to the parents, and I'm talking to the fans. And when talking to coaches and parents, I've said multiple times that forming an alter ego in your wrestling is something that can change the game. And this is a huge factor. Like, so when I was a little kid, there was a high school kid from my neighboring town named Mike Perazzola. Mike Perazzola was a 4-time state finalist, 2-time champ. And I'll never forget, every time I stepped on the mat, I'd shake my dad's hand and he'd look me in the eye and he'd say, "Be like Mike." And as I went out there, I wasn't even me anymore. It was like I was trying to be the 4-time state champ, 4-time state finalist, 2-time champ in high school, and I'm in 4th grade, and now I have an edge over people. I mean, very similar to, I know you understand the Tony Ramos stare or the Brent Metcalf persona, and even Spencer Lee, Austin DeSanto too. They create these, euphoric, like, huge personalities of Spencer Lee, when he's just walking around like, and Austin, how he just grinding. Those are just, some examples of, ones that I've encountered personally in my life, and it works so well. When you can form an alter ego and come out there as almost a different person, it's like, it's not me versus you. It's, almost this versus you. And I'm going to, you can get really, you can escalate your wrestling to another level and take it. And that's like, that's sports psychology 101. I don't know too much about that. But I do know that that's one way, and, something that I preach really often. So the answer to your question, Mike Perazzola, Neshaminy grad, a huge role model for me just with his success. It was really what it is. I never knew him as a person. I shook his hand once or twice when I was in high school, and that's it. But, his success led me to, be better.
So, Josh, speak of looking up to people, my son picked up one of his arm bars from you. It's a reinforced arm bar that you use, and
you were on top.
Deadly with that. First of all, where did you pick that up? And was there anyone in the nation that could stop it? Because I never. You turned as soon as you locked it up.
So where I picked it up, I have no idea. I wish I did. I found that it was similar to freestyle where I had the entire body. I was able, once I had that thing cinched, and the answer to your second part question is one person in my college career stopped it once I had it locked up, and I'm just drawing a blank on his name. He's actually an Olympian. I had from Wisconsin, the Greco Olympian, Jesse Thilke. I locked it up on him at the Big Ten tournament, and my man didn't budge. Everyone went. Everyone turned. Every time I locked it up, I would drive forward on like a 1 o'clock degree straight towards the head, and everyone went. Not Jesse Thilke. Jesse Thilke wasn't even close. That boy was just based out like Greco style, high-level international wrestling. It wasn't happening. So I didn't score with that. In that match, and that always sticks with me. That my man, that one time he didn't go. So and there were times where I'd have the tight waist and barely have a bar, and I'd try to go a different way. I'd run it over the head or this or that. But if I locked up that reinforced bar and I was going to the opposite side tilt, it was going. It went every time. So Jesse Thilke, Wisconsin.
That was the first I ever heard that. I didn't know of anyone that could stop it because
it works really well. I mean, I see Spencer using it all the time. It's just when you can get that tight waist, the key to that move is to get the wrist first. So too many times people get the bar arm and go searching for this wrist. What you do is you hand fight on top, you get him driven down to his head and his shoulders, and you pick up the wrist first, and I'd pull it across to the near side, and when I jump over to that side, I'd push it through, and as soon as I push that through, there's a hole. It literally, so the arm goes from this to this, and you still have the wrist, so I'd have it here, then I have it here, I just push it over, and then opens up, bar that thing up, and run straight over their head. That that was another big point. Too many people try to come sideways. A little technique session here.
Yeah. You say take that to the 1 o'clock.
Yeah, that's right. Take that to 1 o'clock.
My son loves that move, and he's turned so many kids on that, even at the state level. But I'm gonna make a request. Your next 1 minute breakdown, I want to see that. Okay? Yeah,
absolutely. I've been slacking with them with the job transfer and stuff like that. I need to get back on it. They, I got a lot of traction from them, and they're good. I just need to put the time in. They're not actually that time consuming. It's a 15-second clip, and so I did 30 of them, and it was important to me to get that number. I actually wanted to get to 50 before I started reanalyzing what I did, and then what I've actually begun. I would say 75% done is I did a breakdown for the Fight TV event. I pulled out like the top 5 matches pretty much. I have Nazar Kolchitsky and his he retired. He put his shoes on the mat, so I have that in there. Highlight was Zach Sanders and Zane Richards. I had that as my number 1. They've scored like 25, 30 points in the bout. It was just a wild match. So I tried, I'm just playing around with it, really. I'm having fun and doing what I want to do. So I attempted to take my 1 minute breakdown and do it into a breakdown of the event. And that is 10 minutes long right now. And I still need to add in like my audio on the front end and in between each section. So it's probably looking at more like 12 to 12 and a half minutes, which is kind of like a show, but again, I've been a little lazy with that too. I did a lot of the work, and I've just been, we're moving and stuff like that. So trying to, put it together. But no, I will continue with the 1 minute breakdowns. I know that they're good, and I enjoy doing them. I mean, I've gotten permission from a lot of places to use their videos. There's an Instagram site called Wrestling Guru, or the Guru. It's called the Guru Archives. Are you guys familiar with it?
No. But I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up for sure.
Hold on. Let me get the exact name of it. The Guru Archives is sick. They have old school matches. Yeah, the Guru Archives.
Okay. Got it. I'm going to follow them right now.
You have to and go through. So they gave me permission to use their content as I see. So they just break down the entire match into 1 minute skits. So they don't do any editing. They just do the scoring and the close to scoring and stuff. And some of the most amazing matches, like from 1975, 1980s with Buzavar Satiev. I mean, and today's matches too. So a lot of Burroughs and Snyder and a lot of Russians, the Iranians versus Ukrainians and stuff, people I've never heard of, Greco stuff. So I'm telling that's a phenomenal Instagram page. I'm a huge fan of them. So, but yeah, so they've given me permission. So I ran into a little bit of a conflict where, with kind of like copyright infringement, I don't, I take the videos off of YouTube. I don't, so I don't want to steal people's stuff, but and with the Fight TV thing, it's like, I didn't necessarily ask anybody if I could use their footage, but I did. And I have something that I've made and, I'll use it until I get told no, essentially. It's just, I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm not hurting them. You know what I mean? It's just, the videos that I've created are really just for educational purposes anyway. So I'm playing around and, I haven't used any Flow Wrestling clips, stuff like that. I know that they're a little bit tighter of an organization. It might be more private, and I could ask permission, but at this stage, it's something that I was dabbling in. I played with it, and
sure.
It'll move forward too, for sure. But yeah, I got you on you want that reinforced bar on there? I'll look you up. I've had a couple of people ask me for my duck. So I always felt weird about putting my own video on there. I mean, I only use national champions, world, and Olympic champions. I didn't divert from, I only kept it at those. Those are my 3 standards for the videos that I used for those 30. And, I'm willing to, I was just, that was my first 30 set. So obviously I didn't accomplish those feats. So I didn't consider myself qualified for the breakdowns.
I think we'd enjoy it no matter what. Yeah.
Just so you know, that's actually, I lost track of Josh, after you left college for a while. And all of a sudden I was on Facebook and I saw your 30-second, was it 30-second or 1 minute break? I thought it was 1 minute breakdown.
1 minute. Yep.
1 minute breakdown. And I'm like, oh my, this guy is, a doctor of wrestling. The way you broke it down, and I'd never seen it. And you just replay it over and over. And it's like, oh my God, I see how, the setup or the movement, everything has.
I appreciate that. And you know what? The earlier ones I was having more fun with because I didn't do so many like versions of the audio. Like I was driving myself crazy for perfection, trying to just make it so perfect. Like if I messed up a word or something like that, I mean, in a 1 minute, especially with the way that I use the arrows and stuff, I was doing a voiceover after the fact. So I had to like nail it and say what I was showing on the video at the same time. And I would drive myself crazy. And that's probably why, I've been lazy about it lately. But the first, like the Spencer Lee one. So I did a Spencer Lee down block go behind us, my first video. And first audio I did, I nailed it however I wanted it to do and sent it. You know what I mean? So, and that's, if I could get more into being a laid back, like, this is what I'm seeing in the audio, I would enjoy it better and be more willing. But like I was by like from 20 to 30, I drove myself crazy because I would make one little hiccup and be like, no, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And edit, redo, like, come on. So I had to I just got to relax about it a little bit, and ultimately like after the fact, I'd find some terminology that I screwed up and it wasn't that big of a deal, obviously. No, it's not. So I want to do a good job in them, but at the same time, just be a little bit more relaxed about it.
Yeah. I think anything that you ever do in terms of like, whether you're building something physically or whether you're building like a video or whatever, you're definitely more critical of yourself than anyone else in the world is going to be.
Right. They're appreciative of the content. Right. Yeah.
So
good.
I think most people won't even notice the things that me or you screw up,
That's great. No, it's super important. So glad we're on the
Well,
same page there.
We're going to get back to that as well, Josh, because I want to get a plug for your 1 minute breakdowns as well as the text, how you and I got our conversations going. So we're going to get back to that, and then we'll put something up on our page here so that everyone else in Iowa can see that, because holy cow, it's a game changer. And if you need to step your game up to the next level, especially during quarantine time, that's the way to do it. So,
yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, no, the text messaging, I actually got told by Drexel that I had to put it on pause. Unfortunately, there were some recruiting violations that could have been potential. They weren't actually violated. They just, I couldn't necessarily track how old my athletes section were. So if they were in the freshmen or sophomores in high school, then it could potentially be a violation. I was sending general text, to the group, but they weren't really willing to play that. So, and also with parents of the kids those age. So I was forced to put it on hold for a little bit, but, I sent out a text today, and, I'm trying to, get the ball rolling again. I have some, really good ideas for that to grow and scale, which I would love to, make happen. I just, need to put a lot of initiative into it. Like I said, I'm in charge of a youth club, a middle school team, and a high school team now. So, my hands are full. But I actually run better when I have 4 or 5 things on my plate, and I'm dabbling in everything every day. When I have, when I'm looking for things to do, I struggle. So, it's a good thing to be busy for me.
Yeah. I'm the same exact way, actually. I need to be busy too.
Yeah.
So back to some questions we've got. So if you could tell us a little bit about your high school career. I know you finished off was it your senior year you were a state champion?
Yeah, state champion. Going into that year though, 0 state medals. So, just like, a little message out there to anyone that isn't having the career they thought they'd have. That was me. 0-2 as a freshman, 1-2 as a sophomore, number 2 in the state as a sophomore, and got upset. Not really. It was a great match. We wrestled in the quarters with Josh Kindig. He was a national finalist for Oklahoma State. So we wrestled in the quarters, and Jordan Oliver was the champ that year. And I was so heartbroken I lost. I was beating Jordan Oliver. Jordan Oliver was returning state champ, maybe 2-time state champ, going for his 3rd. I think that was the case. And I was beating him that year. I was so excited about it. And then I ended up getting cradled in double overtime in the quarters and fell apart mentally, fell apart emotionally, fell apart physically. I literally crawled on the mat in the consies crying, and didn't put it together, ended up not even placing. So that was, and ultimately you got to get ready to go for the next match. And, it was a huge life lesson for me. I couldn't even believe that. But then I transferred high schools and was forced to sit out. So going into my senior year, 0 state medals. But that's just how the cookie crumbles, that's how it went down. And, but luckily I had some off-season success. I had won Super 32 twice. I had won Fargo Junior Nationals in freestyle. So that's ultimately winning Fargo is what got the call from Tom Brands. He had talked to one of my club coaches, Joe Malcurie. Joe was a national finalist for the Hawks. And he was one of my club coaches from South Jersey. So that was a quick drive for me. I'd go down and see him, and he put in the recommendation. That's ultimately how I got the call. I won Fargo. So, there's always that chance. And then my senior year, I was a Iowa Hawkeye commit. I was ranked top 3 in the country, 0 state medals, ranked top 3 in the country. And, ultimately pinned in the state finals, went 33-1. I bumped up a couple of weight classes and wrestled against Andrew Alton and lost that bout my senior year, but, pretty dominant other than that. Didn't give up a point at the state tournament, went to the Dapper Dan duel, dominated there, and that's what got me the #1 national ranking, got to be on the A6 poster and stuff like that. So it was a very successful senior year, but I was an Iowa Hawkeye wrestling against high school kids. You know what I mean? That was a wrap. So, I was almost like that alternate personality, like extra persona there. You know what I mean? I was somebody different than I was the year before.
Sure. And how did you come to choose Iowa to continue your career?
So how did I choose Iowa?
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear you there.
Yep, sorry.
It was a pretty easy decision. I was born and raised a Hawkeye fan. I had people influence in my life influences in my life that were preaching Iowa Hawkeye wrestling since I was a kid. Like I said, with those concerto camps, I came back one year and I said I wanted to go to Penn State, and they like wouldn't talk to me. They were like, "No, you have no idea." This is probably like 01, 02. Like, Penn State wasn't having the best. I was from Pennsylvania, and I was going to concerto wrestle at Penn State, and that was, my mindset. And at the Ramada Inn with these camps, they had all the Big Ten banners hanging up, and we'd be like doing bottom drills, and we'd be in referee's position. You'd be like, look up at the banners. Where do you want to go to school? And I remember I looked at the Penn State banner, and I came back, and I had these older brother figures in my life. And they asked me where I wanted to go, and I told them Penn State, and they laughed at me. They were like, "You have no idea what you're talking about. You sound like a child. You need to grow up. It's the Iowa way. It's the Dan Gable way, period." And, that's pretty much when I got the Train Like a Madman Part 2 poster put up in that room. And, it was from then on, Iowa, everything. So I went back to that same camp the next year. He pulled the same trick. He puts us in referee's position. He's like, look up at the banner. Which one do you want to go to? And it was that big yellow one. It was just Iowa wrestling. Let's go. And so, after actually right before I won Fargo at the tournament, I committed to Rutgers. I had actually lost at the tournament. So I won the tournament, but it was a pool style. And what ended up happening is all three of the guys in the pool had a loss, and I ended up tech falling the one kid. So I had one more point than everyone else. So I got to go to the finals. And in that process, I committed to Rutgers, win the tournament, and then a week later, 2 weeks later, Tom Brands calls. And like I said, that was a childhood dream that wasn't getting passed up on. You know what I mean? I took less money from Iowa than any other offer I had. And that was, a family decision that we made because we were dream chasing, So we weren't too concerned about it at the time. And, I'm super thankful I did. I wouldn't be in the situation I am right now. If I go to another school and have the same career, I don't necessarily get the pop that I have when I, say I'm an Iowa wrestler. And then, I got a college coaching job right out of college. I wasn't even an All-American. And Roger Reyna, head coach at University of Penn, he brings me home, and shoot, I would love to just take a second and let you all know how appreciative I am of Roger Reyna bringing me home. Because, I was looking at opportunities. Harvard was an opportunity. Was in discussions with American University. I took a trip down to Charlotte, North Carolina, and tried out Hendricks Motorsports to be one of their tire changers. So I was doing different things. I didn't know what I was going to do after college. And ultimately coming home, being 30 miles from my family was the number one decision. So Roger Reyna, thank you. Super appreciative. And then, 1 year after that, I ended up getting an assistant coaching job at Drexel and spent the last 4 years there. And I'll tell you what, guys, Drexel's, I really hope there's a wrestling season this year because Drexel's going to have the best team they've ever had. They're returning 4 national qualifiers. Their best wrestlers coming off a red shirt. They're going to have a tough team to deal with, especially in the EIWA. They're going to be really good. So I'm super hopeful that it goes through.
Yeah. It'll be fun.
So how was that transition from, leaving high school, Pennsylvania? It's not like it's, a 2-3 hour drive down the road to Iowa City. How was that transition for you? And what advice would you give to any other wrestlers that are making that jump from high school wrestling into the collegiate level?
It's a good question. And I'm a little back and forth on it. I think, if Iowa City was in my backyard, it would have went a lot better for me. A lot of things happened while I was in college. My dad ended up getting cancer. Parents ended up going through a divorce, different types of things. It's just not being home was a lot, I guess. And in the moment, though, they really kept me out of it. And I was focused on wrestling and, it was, forward thinking plan. But I always say, you know, if Iowa City was in my backyard, it actually would have been perfect. You know, that would have been a no-brainer. As for like what I would tell people is, one, chase down your dreams. If you have if you're from Texas and you want to be an Oklahoma State Cowboy and you get that opportunity, why wouldn't you do that? You know what I mean? I mean, how could you turn that down? So for me, that is super important. But I also want to make the point that I don't think it's necessarily the key to success, which is something that I did think as a kid. I thought that I had to go to Iowa in order to win. And I thought that they would almost do it for me. And I learned very quickly, like, no, you have to do this every single time out, 7 minutes, every day in the room, period. You know, there's, hour and a half grinds and you have to do it. Nothing's happening for you. So, and people win in other places. Bottom line, people win at Hofstra. People win everywhere, And, so I think that that's super important to note as well. Like if you're dream chasing and you have an objective that you're trying to accomplish and you get the opportunity, you better take advantage of it. Or, God forbid if something happens and you just regret yourself for your whole, I don't know. Like I wasn't letting that happen. I had opportunities that were closer to home, but I wanted to be a Hawkeye. So that was happening and I would do it again. But 1,000 miles it's not the easiest thing, I was, I don't know if pampered's the right word, but maybe taken care of for sure. My mom's an Italian woman, and she's a caterer. She's just the sweetest and took care of me my whole life. And, when I got out there, it was a different game, taking care of myself, and, I had to be held accountable kind of out of nowhere. But, I knew what I was walking into. I knew that. I was excited about it and willing to do it. So that's why I did. But I don't, my message to kids is that if they're going to win, they're going to win. It doesn't, yes, there are programs that are better than others and there is development ways, but the bottom line is that you don't need that to be successful. You can go to a smaller college. You could go to people win at Purdue, people win at Northwestern all the time, and in my head in high school, I was told at a young age too, it's like, it's either Big Ten or bust. If you're not wrestling in the Big Ten, it's not really wrestling. That's what I was told. So I believed that, so I was talking to Virginia Tech and Kevin Dresser showed me tons of respect. And I was almost dismissive because it wasn't a Big Ten school. And Rutgers bought me in because they said that they were going to be a Big Ten school in a few years, which they were in 2012. So it was like, I had that. Nebraska was a huge one on my list, Big Ten school. So it was like, but that's not the case, that people win from everywhere. Fresno State has All-Americans all the time. So, that's just, it's up to you. And that's something that, I learned and I'll preach forever. So, yeah, dream chasing, go after that distance. It's not that big of a deal. You grow up and you handle it the right way. And, I'm super thankful. If I stay home for wrestling, I'd probably, get catered to for the next 5 years. And, I'm not who I am now. And, I'm not the man I am to my family and my and it was super important for my development as an adult. To have that experience, and I'm super thankful for it. So it's all good here. I just, my conversation with youth, or like if I'm recommending something, would just be a little different, I would say.
Yeah, that's a great message, Josh. Yeah, I like that. So Jay and I have talked about, we've heard of the Brands' rule, school, wrestling, and social. You can only really be successful at 2 of them. As a 4-time academic Big Ten athlete, all academic Big Ten athlete, how do you feel about that philosophy?
It's interesting. I've never necessarily heard that terminology exactly put like that. But I don't. It's a funny thing to say, but it's true, I guess. You have to make sacrifices. But I always, one of my favorite quotes from Terry, he said, if if you are experimenting or doing your social life, you know, you're playing that game. It's not that you have to make sacrifices for wrestling. It's not that you have to sacrifice the social stuff for wrestling. It's actually that if you're doing those things, that you're sacrificing the gift, you're sacrificing the wrestling. And it, you know, the inverse thought process in there, you know, he's just really creative and you know, intelligent in that way. I think, you know, it's probably right. I think, you know, academics are 100% mandatory. And that's why I graduated high school with under a 3.0. Was not important to me. I was lazy in the classroom, ultimately probably disrespectful to my teachers, which, you know, kind of haunts me a little bit. And then when I got to college, it was required. Tom Brands made sure of it. It was done. You handled your business in the classroom. It wasn't anything, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. It was just do it, you know. Make sure you're prepared for your exams. You never miss an assignment. If you get a 0 on an assignment, it kills you. So you don't get zeros, and you show up to class, period. And so that's the way I lived my life, and, you know, I had a really good academic career. Yeah, and there probably was some, you know, social decisions that haunt me, you know, especially with my failures, coming down to the postseason. You know, it's like, oh, if I, you know, did something different during this summer, or, you know, I remember specifically a trip to Nashville. I came back and Tom's like, you have no idea how much you missed. And I'm like, damn, like, really wish I didn't go. You know what I mean? But, like, you know, I took a 4-day trip down there, and you know, 4 days turns into a travel day each day. So now you're at a week, and you know, there's good training there. So then ultimately when you know, come up short, it's like, why did I go to Nashville? You know, but, you know, that's just one example. There's, you know, a few. So yeah.
So I'm going to take you to the next stage of your career that we're following you on this, Josh, right now too as well. So you complete your collegiate career out at Iowa. You move to the coaching roles now. Tell us, you know, between, you know, when you started with the Penn State, and then swung to Drexel, and now coaching high schoolers. How's that transition been from being, you know, an elite athlete going into this role that you're at now, coaching people?
Well, it's been a lot of transitions. You know, I'm a lot better at coaching now than I was 5 years ago. And, you know, I'm going to be a lot better at coaching in 5 years than I am now. And, you know, so, you know, just constant growth is super important to me. I think when I first came out, I was still in a competitive mindset, you know, really, you know, I was a glorified workout partner. I'd like to say I had responsibilities like data entry and dealing with some other logistics for the University of Penn as their director of operations. And then when I got into coaching, actually, you know, it was more of a full-time job. You know, I had, you know, I was in the office and actually managing a wrestling team more so. A program rather than also practicing. So I've grown in, you know, the managing of a program aspect, and then also the way that, you know, I talk to my athletes, the way that, you know, I, you know, try to inspire them, and, you know, I'm looking for them to peak at the end of the year. You know, I've just learned a lot. Matt Azevedo was a huge help. You know, we'd, you know, if there was something that wasn't going correctly, it was, you know, we were quick to get into a one-on-one meeting and, you know, hash it out and, you know, figure out what needed to change in both directions. You know, I'd say that, you know, I maybe had a negative annotation on some of my terminology or the way that I was discussing things. And, you know, and that's okay. One thing I've learned, but always trying to find an end on the positive. That's, you know, something I really appreciate out of Terry was, you know, he was really good at letting you know when you're screwing up, and then, like, getting on the same page. It's like, but you're doing a great, like, you know, you're heading in the right direction. All good from you, stud. Keep it up. Like, keep going. And then, you know, that was like, so when I walked out of a conversation with Terry, it was very positive, even if I was getting, you know, let known that, you know, laying on my belly in the third period is unacceptable, you know. but, it'd be like, but your first period, or whatever, all the things, you did a good job in your sprints, and, you'd find positives. So I'm trying to do that a lot in my wrestling. It's just constant growth. That's really my goal, is just to get to be the best coach that I can possibly be. And now that I'm in charge of a program, I'm going to really learn, the load, with, scheduling, travel, gear and equipment, all the things that you deal with in a program. But when it's split between the head coach and a couple assistants, and, we had full-time nutritionist on staff at Drexel. Joe Stanzione's just got a job as the Memphis football and basketball head nutritionist. Phenomenal, graduated Cornell. Awesome guy. But so there were 4 of us handling duties and stuff. It's just, so now, I'm excited to take the reins and, do my, handiwork in there, see what I can do. And, there's going to be learning curves. I'm all good with that, though. It's okay. I'm not, I've been doing that for a long time, so it's good.
So, Josh, let's jump back to a little bit of a sad time in everyone's life, really. This past March, I know you guys had a few qualifiers for the NCAA tournament. How did you find out? How did you guys go through the process of finding out that the tournament was canceled?
Well, the day of social media, it's just kind of instantaneous. Everyone, you just pop on someone's going to look every hour or so, you know what I mean? So we were pretty quick to see that they had made the decision. It was a slow process that was like, it was like someone was stabbing us with a knife and just like kind of turning it very slowly. It was like the Ivy League says that they're not going to participate. And then, this school says that they're not going to. And then different tournaments are shutting down, this and that. And then, finally NCAA basketball shut down, I believe, before the wrestling tournament. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure. And it was just like, well, obviously they're talking about having, so we're wrestling in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, in the football stadium. They're like guaranteeing 40,000+ people are going to be there. I mean, the record for the NCAA championships is maybe 16,000, I think in MSG a couple years ago. So, to talk about triple that amount of people, and now they're talking about wrestling in the same arena, same setup with no fans, the biggest wrestling arena of all time, and no fans. So it's just literally like just getting stabbed little by little, and then finally, they pulled the plug on it. So, it was terrible. It was awful. We took the team out to breakfast the next day, and, they all had to go home. It was just, but, we were able to kind of deal with it because everyone had to deal with it. We had one senior qualifier, Evan Jarrell, one of my favorite kids of all time, just about as high level as you get, hard worker, 4.0 engineering major, fantastic kid. He just got engaged the other day, or a couple weeks ago. So he, his family, they actually like jumped on the gun for the COVID responses, ended up just, he's like one of 6, one of 7, something like that. All of them, their fiancés and wives and their parents just started creating hand sanitizer, and was like delegated to the whole state of Rhode Island, was giving it to other places. I mean, just phenomenal people. But so he was the only one that we lost. And it was a shame because, he was, pegged for a good tournament, unfortunately. So, I'm a huge fan of him, and, it sucked to let him go. But, that's how it went, and we had to deal with it. So, but yeah, there was 4 returners, which is just super positive. So we were able to turn it to the guys. It's like, listen, we're coming back with the best team in Drexel history, period. And, 4 national qualifiers, our best wrestlers coming off a red shirt, the 11 freshmen coming in, all, very high accolades. Got, Luke Nichter, Pennsylvania state champ. He pinned in the state finals, huge match. He's jumping into the lineup. So there's just, good things going for Drexel wrestling. So able to turn it that way. stayed involved through the quarantine, doing weekly Zooms and different events and stuff. So, like we did what we could,
Yeah.
All right. So now we're current day here, Coach, taking on a brand new program here in Germantown. What are you having your wrestlers do during this downtime or off season, especially with minimal clubs opening up right now? It'll be a little better since they're on the burbs of Philly. But what do you have you guys doing? What's this season looking like for you guys?
Yeah. So as of right now, I'm just communicating with them. Telling them to, do the best that they can, running, lifting, eating the right things, just trying to put, good lifestyle philosophies into their head, so that we're prepared to go full steam when we're allowed to. Facilities are still closed, so we're not on the mats at all. And really, I'm just introducing myself to the guys. I have, Zoom calls every day. Just one-on-one conversations, asking them what they like, what they didn't like, things that they need to be successful. And, I'm just gathering information about them now, trying to fill my lineup and doing some scheduling and stuff like that, trying to, set myself up. So when we get the okay, we're good to go. Putting the foundations in for a club for some, like K through 8 training. And yeah, so that's about as much as we can do right now. And like I said, just, emphasizing, good nutrition, good hydration, being active relaxation, trying to be outside as equal time as they're playing, Warzone or Fortnite, right? So just trying to, stay on top of it. And, the kids will, they'll do the best that they can. They have to.
Sure. How's the team looking going into next year? And then also, do you have any new talent, 8th graders coming into the program?
It's great. So unfortunately, when the last coach left, I had a few of my national qualifiers transfer out. It wasn't a personal thing. They didn't know who the coach was going to be, so I don't take it personal, but it was personal to GA, unfortunately. So I returned 2 national qualifiers. I have 2 medalists, actually. I have a 3rd and a 4th coming back for their senior season. Senior dominated team. So, looking forward to some, good leadership there. I have a couple of holes. I don't have a 106 pounder and I don't have a 220 pounder. So, I got to talk to the football coach and, working on building that relationship there. And then, I don't know, I got to find like an ornery soccer player or something, someone walking around the halls, see if I can find myself a 6-pounder. But, tough team. Like I said, they're battle tested. They've done Ironman in the past. They've done the Beast of the East, prep nationals. They took 6th last year. So I have, a good group coming back, senior dominated. My middle school program is filled with hammers. PJW state medalists, Tulsa national champions, superstars. All of them are in 6th and 7th grade. So last year. So I have a couple of kids in 8th grade now. I have 0 incoming freshmen. So, I just made a depth chart the other day, weight classes, years, and put everyone in my freshman class of 2024. I have a column of nothing right now. So, I'll be, I'm in the recruiting game still. So, bringing people in, looking for, talent. Hopefully there's a season, and potentially I could, find freshmen to come in as sophomores and 8th graders to come in as freshmen. I have the ability to play with all of that. I can bring in 5th graders to come in 6th grade. It's a K through 12 school. So there's a lot of opportunity there. As of right now, 0 freshmen on the roster. But, hopefully that changes. We're working on it.
Sure.
So, Josh, you've got to be one of the busiest guys I know. And you mentioned before, multiple irons in the fire. That's when you work your best, right?
Definitely.
So you got where I initially caught back up with you, the 1 minute breakdowns that you were posting. We got the motivational texts and answers and help us dumb dads, right? You have a club going on. You were part of it. Was it the Dragon Wrestling Club helping out and then
Yeah, so the Dragon Wrestling
school.
Club is our was our nonprofit at Drexel.
Okay.
And yeah, we ran our youth club out of there, our golf outing through it, and alumni events and such. And I'll run a similar program. I actually was, doing a lot of good work yesterday, working on an inner circle similar to the Hawkeye Wrestling Club's inner circle with, donation scales and stuff like that, trying to, develop a really good program. The club is it's in the works. It's not done. I can't use the facilities yet. But that ultimately looking to start a girls program in the club. Hopefully it's a feeder into eventually having a girls team at GA. That's one of my goals. I told the head of school that in my interview, that I would like to, start a girls program. So, when I'm looking at the grand scheme of what I'm responsible for, I have the K through 8 in the youth club. The middle school team wrestles a full schedule throughout the year that I'm in charge of. I'm not the head coach of their team, but I'm in charge of the head coach. 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are all competing there. Then I have my high school team, and then ultimately, potentially having a girls team. So now, Germantown Academy Wrestling is fluid and, running on all cylinders in every aspect of the sport that we possibly can, So, potentially I'd like to have assistant coaches that are competing, looking to go to, Olympic trial qualifiers and the world and the U.S. Open and such. So, still working on finding my assistant coaches, but I think, that's another opportunity to add another peg into Germantown Academy's, we call it ecosystem.
That's exciting stuff. Well, Coach, we are now we call it our OT sudden death questions. It's a little bit of a funny, some of them have something to do with wrestling, some of them have nothing to do with wrestling at all. So, ready?
Let's go.
You got that overtime stretch.
Yeah. All right. If you could go back in time, when would you go and to give yourself advice, and what advice might you give yourself?
Sure, man. So this is a good question. I'm excited for this answer too. So I have two parts to it. If I wanted to go back and give myself advice, it would be 2006, 2007, going into my freshman year of high school. But I know that would be worthless and I wouldn't have listened. So scratch that. And we'll go to 2010, 2011, my first year at Iowa. And I would absolutely have a lot to say about, that experience. And, gosh, man, I wish I would have just manned up and been a little bit more vocal and I had a lot there. So it would have been most beneficial if I would have listened earlier on, like high school, but college would have been the most beneficial answer for sure. Freshman year, 2010, 2011. I go back August 2010. Like August 15th, 2010. That's where I go. Honestly, I just wasn't groomed to be prepared for those types of conversations that I needed to have. They were just, it was hard. It was, and those workouts, I'd never gone through anything like it. Just so we're clear, it was Daniel Dennis, Brett Metcalf, Montel Marion, Mike Zadek, Nate Moore, the Ballweg brothers, Mark Ballweg and Jake Ballweg was a stud. Ended up dropping it after his first year, but Jake Ballweg was a freaking hammer. And, ultimately tore my shoulder out that year, because he was such a freaking stud. I could go on. And Tony Ramos, do I need to drop more? You know what I mean? It was literally like, what rotation of workout partners am I going through where I'm going to score?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like number one kid in America coming in and I can't score unless I'm grabbing the other freshmen in my class that are like me. You know what I mean? So, I would have a lot of good things to say to my 2010 self for sure.
What an incredible room that you jumped into. That is amazing.
I knew what I was doing, and but like I said, in my mind, that's what I needed to be successful, and was faulty in my own convictions, because that's, people are successful in other places. I just didn't see it. I didn't understand that that was possible. And man, there were just some lumps, and it was hard. Like I had my face stuffed in the mat a lot, and like a lot. You know what I mean? And so it was hard, but ultimately the tide turns and changes, as you grow, and you turn into a sophomore, junior, senior, and you become the hammer. But that learning curve was tough for sure.
Favorite wrestling movie?
Favorite wrestling movie? So I'm actually a huge fan of Foxcatcher. People hate on it. They're like, oh, it's not a wrestling movie. It's about like psychology. And it's like, I loved it. I love seeing like the beginning with Dave and Mark Schultz, how they just start grappling. Like one of my favorite things, like I just love getting in there and just like play wrestling to begin, and then picking up the intensity as we go. I mean, and I seen that in that movie. Foxcatcher was fantastic. Yeah, go with that. That's probably a unique answer for you. How about that?
I like that movie. That's a good answer.
Yeah, good. The documentary was amazing too. Actually, better. The documentary was wild.
Yeah.
I know that was on ESPN.
Yep. I like that. If you could be any superhero, which one would you be? Who would you be?
I always liked Iron Man because he's a man. Like it wasn't magical. It was just tactical and smart and powerful, and in a machine essentially. So he was always my favorite, at least with the movies that I watched. The Hulk was super dominant. You can't get around that. But yeah, I'd probably say Iron Man.
All right. Favorite wrestling match of all time?
Favorite wrestling match. So I'm a big fan of the Colot win for the Colot win for Ironside. I'm a huge fan of the Abyss win for McElravy in the national finals his freshman year. I could literally I could do his little 2-stomp pump. Like, oh man, I love that freaking ending so much. I could watch it on repeat for the rest of my life and be satisfied. That's so good. There's been, I'll tell you what, that the heavyweight match in Madison Square Garden, the Kyle Snyder and Nick Wisdowski bout, the best heavyweight match I've ever seen. Absolutely insane. Love that. So, yeah, we'll go there. That's some college wrestling for you. I could probably go international too if I thought about it, but we'll just keep it there.
Yeah, those are good. Those are really good. What's your favorite food? And then where should we go when we get out to Philly to get the best cheesesteak?
Jim's is your answer. It's on South Street. It's a fact. Anybody that knows wouldn't tell you differently. You'll hear Steve's and Pat's and Gino's, but the answer's Jim's. I promise. So take advantage of that. Don't let anybody tell you anything else, because then they just don't know, which is the fact. My favorite food, I love chicken parm. Good steak. You can't beat a good steak. My girlfriend Ashley, she actually makes this chorizo dish with potatoes and tomatoes and corn, and it's like almost like a salsa. And you could put it on tortillas and make tacos and stuff like that. It's fantastic. That's, when I'm coming home and I hear that that's getting done, and I'm extra excited. I feel good about that. So that's I don't even know what it is. It's just a conglomeration of everything, but it's so good. I love it.
All right. Greatest U.S. Olympic wrestler of all time?
Dan Gable. No points. No one else has done it.
Yep.
No, but I'm a huge John Smith fan. To win 6 straight, that's been pretty much unmatched too. Bruce Baumgartner too. I'm really enjoying the young guys coming through. Even, Jordan Burroughs, as a young guy, But now, he's just, being relatively new. His decade reign has been so fun to watch. And, he's from Winslow Township, New Jersey. So that's, within an hour of me. We've wrestled at, the same club multiple times. So, really fun to watch. Super excited about Helen Maroulis becoming the first woman national Olympic gold medalist. We were in the same bracket multiple times with her being from Maryland. So, I'm a huge fan there. She changed the game for women's wrestling forever. I got 2 daughters, so, the idol has been set. Yeah, so, greatest of all time, Dan Gable.
I like it.
But Randy Lewis, too. Randy Lewis's Olympic gold medal match, that's also one of my favorites. My man does some ridiculous things for the Olympic gold medal match. I mean, it's insane. He's out there just throwing haymakers and ends up tech following him. He was a freak. Probably, got zero respect. I've seen on different places, maybe even NCAA Wrestling's Instagram said, like, it must have been Iowa's. I don't know. Who's the best Hawkeye 2-time national champion? And Randy Lewis wasn't on there. And I was like, oh, man. So many people must have had so much to say about that. Because he was different.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw Jay off a little bit because this isn't on our to ask list, but was DeSanto at Drexel while you were there?
Yep, I coached him his true freshman year. So crazy story. We had a great season. We had some lumps. He couldn't beat Mueller. He lost to Mueller in Vegas. The Virginia lost to him at the scuffle, ends up getting a concussion, this and that. And then preparing for the conference tournament goes decent. He ends up taking a loss to Chaz Tucker. Kid just holds him off the whole time and stays in good position. He ends up losing that. But we're getting ready for the national championships, and my girlfriend is 9.5 months pregnant, like ready to go. Yeah. And so I don't go with the team. I told them that, I would drive separate. They were in Cleveland that year. And Wednesday, March 14th, she went into labor, and unfortunately, the baby, Ashley, got a fever during the labor, so the baby was forced into the NICU. She was fine ultimately, but still in the NICU for 2 days. So I wasn't in a position where I was able to leave. So I never went. And, you could ask Austin about our relationship. I was just his guy. Every athlete connects with one coach specifically, and we molded together very well. I understood his passion. I understood how important wrestling was to him and winning was to him. And I, was a voice of reason for him. And sometimes where he would get sporadic, I would bring him back and, be comforting and forward moving. So, he's known for that tournament for the shenanigans in the quarters against Michigan's Stefan Michik. But what people forget is the night before, he whooped the crap out of Mueller for the first time all season. He was 0-3 against him and might have majored him. It honestly might have been like 15-6. Smoked him. And so I had my man ready to go. And, unfortunately, a poor weight cut the next day and a little, uncomfort. He got into a situation, got dumped to his back right away against Michik, was down 6 and couldn't gather himself. And then, ultimately had the shenanigans at the end of the match, which everyone knows his tournament for. But, he was primed and ready to go. I was super excited for him. I wish I would have made it out there. It would have, if I go to nationals that year, I'm very confident that things go differently in his tournament and ultimately his career. I'm not convinced that he leaves, because of a couple of things. He had left, and it was super unfortunate, but easy handoff. It was as soon as I realized that he was not going to be at Drexel the next year, it was immediate to Ryan Morningstar. It was like, hey, get ready for a handful, but my man is your answer. He absolutely is about what you're about. He wants to do it. And, you know, and I've had conversations with Morningstar out in Fargo over the years and in Tulsa for the junior duels. And, you know, all I've heard is how good Austin is for that program. And, you know, ultimately, I don't know if we can say that it was that case for Drexel. Youth is one aspect of it, but also just like very a big fish in a small pond almost, you know, kind of. It was just he needed more attention. And, you know, one thing that's, you know, really valuable about Drexel is the individual attention that you're going to get because it's a smaller institution. The resources are less, so the you're going to get a more personal experience. And, you know, with Austin eating up like 90% of the attention, you know, so I don't know that it was the right fit. But, you know, I'm proud of him. He's developed a lot. He's gotten a lot better at wrestling. When I had him, it was really a dump, and we were trying to just get him to open up to other things. And now you see, you know, he's formulating into a full, you know, competitive wrestler. And, you know, I knew once I had my hands on him, I was like, I told everyone in my family, it was just, this kid belongs at Iowa. You know, I knew that for, you know, I've seen kids very similar to him. You know, Matt McDonough is one of them. It's like, you know, as soon as the headgear clicks, it's on. And it's like, wait, you know what I mean? And, you know, so he reminded me a lot of Matt McDonough in his time. So, yeah, it was unfortunate I had a baby that day. But, you know, I would have liked to continue to coach him, but easy handoff, and, you know, for the better, probably for our program, and definitely for the better for Iowa's program, definitely for the better for Austin DeSanto himself. So, you know, all is good.
Yeah. Awesome. So, maybe a tougher question here. Who do you have at 57 kilos next for the next U.S. Olympic team?
Spencer Lee.
Love it.
Yeah.
That wasn't a hard question.
No, it wasn't. No, I think the young guys, it's time for them to take over. 74 kilos is where I'm at battles. You know, I'm a Jordan Burroughs fan. I grew up with him. He's from my club. I want Jordan Burroughs to win. I think that Kyle Dake is our best option to win the Olympic gold medal. But I want Jordan Burroughs to win. 65, you know, I'm a Jordan Oliver fan my whole life, chased him down my entire career, never got him. So, you know, I'd love for nothing more than him, but, you know, between Zane and Yanni, and, you know, it's a shame that Stieber retired too, because I think, you know, he belongs in that conversation as well. So, 86 Taylor, my favorite wrestler in the whole world. My man, did you guys watch him on Flow last weekend? How about that? Ain't he something?
Yeah,
my man just his ties and pulling and pushing, and then it turned into he didn't even need to tie. He did all the work on the front end. He did all the work in the first minute, so then the next minute he just shot. He wasn't even setting him up. He was just shooting. And then repenetrating, fixing his position, and amazing. I mean, my favorite wrestler in the world. 97 kilos, super exciting. You know, you got Kyle Snyder and Jaden Cox. I think Jaden Cox. I mean, how could you not? Because you got Kyle Snyder there, who's, you know, Mr. America. So either way, we're in good hands, and I'm super excited for that best of three. I want nothing more than 3 matches deep of Kyle Snyder and Jaden Cox, please. You know. And yeah, heavyweight. You know, Gwiz is, you know, multiple time world medalist, and, you know, he belongs there. I think, you know, I don't know how much longer he'll go, if he'll go another cycle, but I'd love to watch him, you know, finally get to the top of that podium. I think, you know, we have 10 weight classes full of really talented wrestlers that we're shoving into 6, and we're in a good position. So the RTC programs have really elevated, you know, our youth. You find, you know, our young guys are competing with, you know, the veterans.
No doubt.
All right, we're going to take it a little later here now, Josh. Chocolate or vanilla ice cream?
Chocolate.
You ever had a Carver cone?
Absolutely. Do that chocolate raspberry twist. Come on. I would go underneath and sneak into the basketball games, and just so I could get a Carver cone. That was a huge opportunity for me. I would actually I would push off some of my dinner because I knew I was having I was definitely getting a cone for a home game for basketball.
Awesome. Favorite football team?
Philly everything all the way through. College is still the Hawks, 100%. But Sixers, Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, Union. Let's go. We got to get a wrestling team.
All right. Would you rather be out fishing or golfing?
It's a great question. Golfing. I do love fishing. I'm just no good at it. I'm so bad at fishing. I just don't understand why I can't get them to bite the thing on my hook. I don't know what the darn trick is that no one ever taught me. My dad took me fishing all the time, and I got friends on the team. Mike Evans is one avid fisherman, loves going, trout fishing, and he'll stand in a lake all day. But I absolutely love golfing. 9 holes is enough for me. 2 hours out on the course is plenty. After I hit hole 12 or 13, I'm just whooped and just, not having as much fun anymore. But, golf is something that I like to actually try to get really good at. I put it, I'd like to say I get 9 holes in once a week right now. And so I'm pretty passionate about trying to get better at it. And, we'll not much better at it, but it's just I'm trying.
Do you have a favorite vacation destination?
Yeah, we go to the Jersey Shore all the time. I got family down there, and being on the beach. But I love snowboarding in the winter as well. So heading to the Poconos, I've done a couple of mountains out in Colorado. I've done Loveland and Breckenridge out there. Killington, Vermont is one out on the East Coast that I've done. So, I love snowboarding in the winter, golfing in the summer. Those are really my pastimes that I, like to do. So if it's in the, depending on the time of the year, it's either the beach, sand and water, or it's a mountain with a lot of powder.
All right, Coach. This is how we wrap up all of our interviews. We're looking for the quote, your best quote that most defines you.
Most defines me?
Or your favorite quote?
Well, my favorite quote is, in the season, Tom Brand's initial start to the 2001. You guys know the season that I'm talking about. And he goes in there. He's like, in order for me to be successful, or in order for my athletes to be successful, he better be a dick. He better be selfish. He better be mean. It's you and the other guy out there. When you live, lose, you die. And that's been my quote forever. I've watched that thing so many times. So, that's it.
Love it. Well, Josh, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We had a blast. We're going to definitely recommend, we'll put something separate out as well, but we're going to recommend that people follow your 1-minute videos for sure, your 1-minute breakdowns, and your text programs.
Yeah,
WrestleText. That's I think that's going to grow exponentially. I'm trying to get other coaches involved, and we'll see what we can do with it. But I'm super excited about WrestleText. The 1-minute breakdowns are a fun pastime for me, but I'll keep doing it because I enjoy doing it as well. I enjoy the video editing. I'm just I need to kick myself in the butt and get after it, So I appreciate the time. You guys have been awesome. I enjoyed talking to you guys, and I'd love to stay in touch and maybe do another in a year or so. Check in.
We'd love that. We appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right.
That's great. Thank you. See you guys.
Thanks, Josh.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. Please share this podcast with your friends. Give us a like and a follow on Facebook and Twitter at QCA Wrestle. And keep an eye out for more QCA wrestling content coming soon.